Hey, everybody, welcome to It's Real with Jordan and Demi. I'm Jordan. Demi is gone for the day. My guest today is Charlotte Sands. She's a singer-songwriter who really goes around to different genres. Some of her stuff is rock-oriented. Some of her stuff is more pop-oriented. But we had a really good conversation about her new music and all the collaborations she's done and her love of playing live shows. All right, so let's start with the newest thing, your latest single, All Right. I noticed it's kind of I was listening to it this morning and little tear in the corner of my eye. It's a little bit of it's an emotional song, it's kind of it's a ballad. A little bit of a departure from recent music. So tell me about making this track.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels stylistically a little different than things I've done in the past, and I think that's mainly because I wrote it, like, so long ago. I wrote it, like, 3 years ago, and so the original demo is actually pretty similar to the version we released, and because that's kind of closer to what I was making at that time and that kind of music, and, we considered just completely reproducing it and, changing a lot, and then there was just like this certain vulnerability that was just like in it because it was like the original version that I really ended up not wanting to change a lot of the production. And so we ended up just keeping a lot of the original production and which made it feel very different than a lot of the stuff that's like newer for me.
And I know you kind of go back and forth. I feel like you in general have more of a rock sound, but you also go into sort of, some pop stuff and everything like that. Do you even think about genre at all?
No, I honestly, like, I think it's always like in the back of my head just because like that's kind of what's been like forced upon us. But I personally believe that like the artist is the genre. And I think especially now, like people want to find artists that they believe in as like people and as human beings and that they can support and they support their values and their character. And that is all part of the music to people, I believe, at this point. Like it's not just like you like the song and you don't care about like the artist. And I think that that's the most important thing for me is that I really hope to get to a place where whatever I put out and whatever style of music I put out, people will support it because it's mine and because it's something that I created and they want to support me or they support like the project and what I stand for and not just the genre personally. But yeah, so I try not to think about it. I don't want to like box myself in too much because I also I'm inspired by so many different types of music, and I grew up on so many different types of music, and so I think there's influences from that all the time, and I just want to be able to experiment with that as much as possible.
And you definitely get your chance to stretch your rock muscles. You've done these collaborations with these huge rock bands. I'm specifically curious about the track you did with The Maine and Taking Back Sunday, Love You Little, because you're doing a track with literally 2 bands with a combined 9 members or something.
Yeah.
Like logistically, how did that work?
Well, so all of that was taking place kind of still while COVID was going on. And so I recorded, it was actually really, I played Sad Summerfest with The Maine, and that's when I originally met them. And then I've been a fan of them my entire life since middle school. I've just like been obsessed with everything they've created. And I remember them reaching out to my management and just being like, hey, would Charlotte want to feature on a song that we're doing? And I didn't even listen to the song. I was like, absolutely yes. No questions asked. Just put me on it. I don't care if it's a cover of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I will do it because I love them so much. And then I remember listening to the song and being like, this sounds kind of like a Taking Back Sunday song. I was like, this has elements of like Taking Back Sunday and of Adam Lazzara. And I was like, this sounds really cool. But at the time didn't realize it was another feature with anybody else. And so I remember the meeting that we had like a phone call to discuss like what parts they wanted me to do and like how they wanted me to record my vocals. And it wasn't until the very end that they were like, oh yeah, and then Adam will just do that part. And I was like,
Adam.
I was like, I'm a huge fan of this band. I think I would know if there's a guy named Adam in this band. And then I got off the phone call and I immediately called my like main producer and friend Dana and Reed. And I was like, do they mean Adam Lazzara? Like from Taking Back Sunday? I was like, there's no way. And yeah, so like I genuinely didn't even know he was on it at the time. And so I was so excited. And then I ended up doing a Zoom call with John and Pat from the Main, and that is how we recorded the vocals for my part. And I was very intimidated because they're legends, and they just watched me sing and record these vocals, and then would be like, "You should try that an octave higher." And I was like, "I don't think I can sing that high." And they'd be like, "Yeah, you should just try it." And I was like, "This is so hard," but it was such a cool experience to be able to kind of be like coached by them a little bit and just like
Yeah.
out of my element that I probably, if I was alone recording those vocals, I probably would have like played it safe a little bit. And they
Right.
just like did not stand for it. They were
Maybe
like,
like make it more rock and roll, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So then that's how it happened. And then, yeah, it's been wonderful ever since. And I've gotten to play it live with them so many times. I just randomly got off tour and I was in London for one extra day, and they happened to be in London like the day we got back performing. And so I got to jump up on stage and do it with them. It's been really, really fun just to be able to do it all over the world and just be buddies with them. It's been amazing.
I also think it would be cool to jump on stage and sing a song with a band that you know is badass behind you. That like, it's almost like the most intense version of karaoke ever invented.
Oh
like,
yeah, no,
I
one
just can't
hundred percent.
imagine.
It's so fun because also like I am like a solo artist, and so it's like I have an incredible band that plays with me, which is so fun. But it also is so fun to get to play like and perform with a band that's like they've been a band for so long, and I just get to be like the little sister that gets like brought in, and it's so fun. And they've really, really like taken me in and like have become really good friends of mine. And I can't believe a year ago I wouldn't have been able to even fathom that. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, you kind of, I feel like you got that song, you got the song with Sleeping the Sirens.
Yeah.
And it feels like you kind of get to play Warped Tour whenever you want to. It's just like,
that's, well, genuinely, I did. I went to When We Were Young festival, and I went both weekends, and it was so funny because I didn't even have a slot at the festival, but I performed like 3 times a day because I had a feature with so many different bands. And so it's kind of like the dream. It's like the easy gig. I just get to like show up and do like one song and hang out with my friends and then get off stage, and to the point where people are just in the audience like, how is she up here again? Like,
yeah, who do you think she is? Like,
yeah. That's my marketing strategy right now, is just to
just saturation, just like show up everywhere.
All the time. No one can get rid of me. You'll never be able to forget.
Yeah, like Paul Rudd. Like Paul Rudd is everywhere. You just like saturate.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the Paul Rudd of like
the Paul Rudd of But you know, speaking of the Sleeping with Sirens track, was that one made a little bit more in person? Because when you talked about singing high, when you think about singing high, Sleeping with Sirens, Kellen just you know,
higher than high. So that is actually such a funny story because I was doing a podcast, and I think it was like All Punked Up, or I'm pretty sure. And I was doing this podcast with them, and on the podcast I said like, I really want to work with Kellen Quinn. I love Kellen Quinn.
Yeah.
All the stuff, and he ended up tweeting out a video of the podcast, and then Kellen responded and was like, I have the perfect song. And I was like, it was like all within 30 minutes of doing it. And it was just like so funny because on the podcast I was like, wouldn't it be so funny if he saw this? And like we ended up doing a song together. Like, there's no way. And I was talking about manifestation and how I like always put everything out in the universe and just really vocalize everything I want. And it always works for me. And then literally 30 minutes later that happened. And I remember texting the host of the podcast, and I like the next day being like, recording vocals today for the song with Kellen. And so that all happened that way. And they were about to release the album, and it was pretty last minute before they released it. And so I just really quickly like went into the studio and did vocals like the next day. And it was actually, this is actually what I just realized. I went into the vocals the next day. We didn't have time to like actually record all the vocals because I was about to leave for tour the day after that to go on tour. I'm pretty sure with the Main. And we ended up recording the vocals at like the first show. It was like the House of Blues Boston in the green room, which is where I'm from. So very weird.
Soundproof enough room in a green, because I've been in green rooms before shows and it's not a quiet place.
No, and also since we were the openers, everyone was sound checking, and so we would literally, I wish we had video of this because it was so funny, but we would basically like, we would hear them checking the kick drum, and then they would stop, and Danon would click record and we would really quickly get a take and we'd
In
stop and pause.
between. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we would pause and then they would like start checking something else. And then we knew we had like a 15-minute turnover until the next band. And then we'd do it. And then it would be like our sound check. So we'd go sound check and then we'd come back and check vocals. So it was just like so chaotic, but genuinely like everything was at that time, like everything. And still to this day, everything that we do is like so crazy.
I want to go listen to that track again, knowing how the vocals are recorded.
And it's like the highest I've ever sang in my life. And I was like screaming in the
well,
green
when
room.
you have, and when you're involved with Kellen Quinn, it just makes you reach for that extra mile. You know?
That was the most challenging thing in the world is I'm like, wait, you're doing the part that I would normally do in the song. So what do? I'm not going to sing, but I will never let you down. You know, like I had to like be like, what am I going to do? Right. But it's so fun.
Yeah, I will share a short story. We did have Kellen Quinn and Garzi on the podcast together about a year ago because they did a song together.
Yeah.
My co-host, Demi, who usually does this show, who couldn't make it today, connected with Garzi, and they just released a single together like a month or two ago. So, but almost the same exact situation. So you never know where the connection comes from.
Yeah, I love Garzi, and I was lucky enough to see him open for Kellen in LA, I believe. I went out there and saw them, and it was so fun, and he's so sick. Kellen's just amazing. He's just like one of those people. He wakes up in the morning and he just like hits the highest note in possible. I just don't
freakish. Yeah,
he's also so sweet and such a good person. And
right. I'm curious. You first of all, I hate saying I'm curious. I don't know why podcast hosts have that urge to say I'm curious. I'm curious about. Tell me more. Where did that come from? No, you mentioned that you do like sort of female singer-songwriters inspire you a lot. In your press materials, you mentioned Bonnie Raitt and Sheryl Crow specifically. And I've seen that on 3 or 4 different interviews you have around the internet with you drop Sheryl Crow and Bonnie Raitt. And I wonder, is that just because people have picked that up and repeated it, or are those specific people mean something extra to you?
No, I mean, I grew up like specifically like Bonnie Raitt was like the first artist that I just tried to copy all of her music. I was like 14 years old and would just like learn the chords to her songs and then write my own lyrics like over her melodies. Like it was very illegal. Like not how we should make music. But that was kind of like a big.
And how old were you? Like 10 or something?
Yeah, I was like a child.
Okay. You weren't like 17 putting stuff on SoundCloud or something. Yeah.
I was 25 years old. Like
copying Bonnie. This is Bonnie Raitt song.
Everything.
No.
You heard it here first. But no, I would like learn the chords to her songs on like YouTube tutorials, and then I would basically write my own lyrics to her melodies of like these famous songs, and that's how I learned. And then I would like change them and be like, what if the melody went like this, or what if it? And that's kind of how I started songwriting, was like messing with like songs that already exist that were automatically already incredible and legendary songs. So I was like, I can't go wrong.
Well, I'm glad you didn't go the Weird Al route and start doing parodies of
like I Can't Make You Love Me, like these incredible songs, and I just ruined them. But yeah, and then Sheryl Crow was huge for me because she was like an introduction to like this like kind of more rock but like still songwriter like folky thing, but her voice was just like incredible, and her story is just so inspiring. And I love Michelle Branch, and there's just like so many incredible people, and Grace Potter. And I remember like, because it's specifically those groups of people, because so much of their work and their music was made in Nashville. And that's kind of why I moved to Nashville after high school. And that was like my intro to Nashville. So I think that's why it's such a big influence on me, because they didn't just influence like my writing, they influenced like the choice that led me to like where I am today.
There's a vibe to the people in the music industry in Nashville. It's different than LA or New York. There's almost sort of like, I feel like there's ingrained in Nashville people an appreciation for older music that you don't get everywhere in LA. I feel like I do this series, maybe sometime we'll meet in person. I do this series called 5 Tracks That Inspired Me for Pop Dust, where artists talk about their 5 tracks that inspired them, just from random, and I feel like a lot of the people who are from LA end up choosing songs that are more recent, whereas people who are from different parts of the country, they dip back a little bit further.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that's like, I think it's super accurate. I mean, the songwriters here, I think there's just so much history and of just like songwriting here that it's like there is this like
Yeah.
respect for like the song and the people who were here. It's like the town of like the 10-year town of like you and you have to put in this work and there's just so much respect to the people who have
Right.
and like I don't know, I really there's yeah, I just love it so much. There is like this passion and this feeling of like people have been here for so long doing this here and like these legendary people that we're able to do this for so long and do this in such a huge scale and we get to do it as well. It's like this gratefulness and it's like a lot of people feel that way and have that and it's just like really it's really cool to be around.
But it's become such a hot place now, and it's become really corporatized, and
Yeah.
you know, uh Broadway is like, just like one big tourist bar after another.
Yeah.
um how long are you still based there?
Yeah, I'm in Nashville right
You're in
now.
Nashville now. How long have you been there?
Like 7 years.
7 years. What have you seen change in those 7 years?
Oof, everything. I mean, I would say like the amount of like actual like the scenery has changed tremendously. I mean, when I moved here, I think there were like 4 big buildings in Nashville, and now it's like a major city skyline. It's insane. And obviously now there's like actual restaurants and like there's like bars and like these bars that I used to go to when they were like dive bars are now like these cool hot spots. And I'm just like, what is this? But
Yeah.
I still go because I love it. And honestly, I'm a huge fan of like the new Nashville as well as the old Nashville. I think that like the cool thing is that the industry has changed and evolved so much. There's so much more room for different types of artists and genres. And I mean, we have like a really cool like R&B scene. We have a country scene. We have a rock scene. We have like a really cool pop scene. And so it is kind of like everything. And like the one tie that I feel like really ties it together is like the quality of song is just like so high and the standards for songs are so high that like people put so much intention behind like the lyricism and the storytelling. And I just love it. And it feels like a small town and there's just like this energy constantly of people supporting other people. And just like, it's never like, oh, like I'm a photographer, you're a photographer. Like, oh, cool. It's like, oh, sick. Like we should work on something together. Like, have you met this person? They would love your stuff. Like it's getting there. Everybody like gets each other work. And like, it just feels like a community and it feels really inclusive. And I love that feeling. And that's honestly why I've stayed here.
Yeah. I do that all the time. I go up to other photographers. I'm like, you're a photographer. I'm a photographer.
Yeah. You do that? I do that.
Yeah. I sing, you sing. Hey,
Yeah.
how about that? I noticed the credit. I always look at the credit when it comes to tracks, what it's being released under, the record label, whatever. I noticed yours says CS Records. So obviously that means that's you. I'm assuming that doesn't mean C.S. Lewis or something.
I wish. Yeah, that's me.
So is that an actual record label? How does that work? Or, I guess it's you independent, but can you tell me how you have your whole distribution setup going on?
Yeah. So it's just CS. Like that was just we had to decide in like 30 minutes what we are gonna call it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I think my manager was like, does this work? And I was like, yeah, records sounds cool. Let's do records.
Yeah. It sounds like a legit thing. It sounds like a record company from the 50s.
Honestly, I was on the phone this morning with my friend, and I was really excited because I just did today like Good Day New York, and like I was watching as they were premiering my song, and it showed a music video, and at the top it was like CS Records, and I was like, that's so cool.
It looks legit. Like, you're like, hell yeah.
And it's just it's honestly like what I'm most proud of overall is being able to like be an independent artist and be a competitor like in this genre and in this scene. It's really cool. It's really hard, and I have an amazing team that makes it possible. And it's just like a really small team that is so good and so efficient and so intentional. And I'm just really grateful to get to work with the people I work with. But I've never been with a record label. And I have nothing really against record labels other than the sense of I'm really specific about the people I work with because it's not just my time that gets affected by it. It's my team's time. And it's like, if the people aren't the right people, it affects everybody, which then affects me, which affects the creative part of the process. And I don't want that to be affected. I want everyone to be happy and like enjoy the project and enjoy their jobs. And that's really important. And I think until we find the team or are in the position where I feel like it's like a necessity to join with another label or partner with somebody, then we might do that. But right now it's just, I have so much freedom to be able to release whenever I want. I can make whatever videos I want. I can make whatever artwork I want. I can genuinely, every decision comes down to what I want and I ask my team their opinions, and then we make a decision as a family and as a group. And it's not just like all this red tape of like, and politics of this other artist on our roster is releasing music right now, so we should push this back. It's like, you know what? Wednesday the 15th sounds sick. I'm like, that's great. Let's do it. And so I am with Vidya for distribution right now, and they're incredible. And I've really enjoyed working with them. But I think the main thing is I've always just been really big about having control over my art and over my work, and having ownership over it and not giving that away just because I need other things, because I'm the kind of person I will find a way to do it. I will find a way to make it happen. And I don't want to have to sacrifice my ownership and my creativity to do that. And I'm very stubborn. So until there's no other option, I'm going to keep fighting for that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
And here's a scenario that happens that I've seen play out multiple times, is that an artist signs with a record label, often based off of a TikTok success. They can't replicate the success at the record label. The record label drops them, and now they're independent again with the wound of having been dropped from a record label.
Yeah.
So if you're never with a record label, there's no risk of that happening. And you just kind of, you're good to go,
Yeah. And I think that and honestly, I completely respect artists who sign with labels. Like I completely understand doing that. I mean, it's a really hard either way. I mean, either way, you're an artist. Like, what is expected of an artist on a normal day right now, especially on the content social media side, is insane. It is.
You better get on that song of the summer, because it's February. If you're going to write the song of the summer, Charlotte, you got to do it now.
Yeah, the song of the summer, guys. I got the song of the summer. But yeah, it's genuinely it's so much work, it's so much time, and it's all these jobs that you didn't really sign up for when you became when I started making music and I was 14 and was I want to be the biggest artist in the world. This is a very different type of industry and different type of working and different work that I'm doing than I thought I was going to have to be doing. It's not tour every day, all day for the entire year for the rest of your life and go out and have fun and do it.
It's being on the road. Are you a road warrior?
Oh my God. I could live on the road. I love it. I could live in a hotel. I just love I love going and just traveling, and always, I love airports. I don't worse. It sounds awful.
I don't know about the airport thing, but I got in the hotel thing. Doing hotels in different cities is dope, and going inside and oh, look at this soap. Even the soap sometimes can be thrilling,
Yeah, 100%. The thing about airports to me, and this is my theory, but airports feel like they don't exist in space and time. For me, I get there and I feel like I'm not reachable. Nobody can ask me for anything because I'm flying out. And it's no, I'm traveling. And it's not just you're in the car and or you're on the tour bus or you're doing anything. It's when I'm on an airplane, I don't even buy the Wi-Fi because I just don't want to exist for however long that flight is. And it really feels like the only time that my brain allows me to be unattainable. Nobody can grab or get anything they need, or, because I'm the kind of person, if somebody reaches out, I will do it. I will get it done. And so it's the only time that I'm no. And that's why I love airports. It's my spa.
Yeah. That's interesting take on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Carlos Sands compares
offline Netflix is the way to go as far as I'm concerned when you're flying.
Where?
Offline Netflix, download the Netflix shows ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. I can catch up on everything. I love it.
Talk about, speaking of the road, what do you got planned for tour festivals? Because we got festival season right around the corner here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm doing Hangout Fest for the first time ever, and I'm so excited about that. I'm doing Shaky Knees. I'm doing a lot of festivals in the UK and in Europe, which I'm so excited about because I just did a UK Europe tour and had the best time, and so I'm so excited to be going back out there. And then a few other things that I'm looking forward to, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen and kind of multiple options that we have, but I will definitely be on the road and I will definitely be touring a lot this year, which is like my favorite thing in the whole world. So as we were just talking about,
And
so
you know that if you go to see a punk band or a rock band, a Y2K era band, Charlotte Sands might be there by chance performing with them. So
honestly,
you
it's
never
like
know.
the risk. You buy a ticket, any ticket you buy to any show in that genre, and you know I might just pop up on stage.
Someone like, hey, you want to go to Taking Back Sunday?
Yeah.
Maybe, but what if Charlotte Sands comes up on stage?
Exactly.
So
It's a little added reason to go. Yeah, and that's my goal. I'm just gonna be on everything all the time until everyone is so sick of me.
Did you ever go the competition? Did you ever consider doing American Idol or The Voice or anything like that? America's Got Talent?
Oh yeah. When I was 18 years old, the year I moved to Nashville, I drove to Atlanta and did like one of the open calls for The Voice. And then they automatically said no, which is great. Honestly,
wait, why'd they say no? What was the justification for it?
I think I did a cover of Toxic by Britney Spears, and I genuinely, it was
That's not a belty song.
No, I was like, baby, can't you see? It was so quiet. It was like so dumb. But I remember doing it and being like, probably wouldn't have said yes either. And I went home, and this is so funny. This story is so dumb. But I remember going home, and I did like a writer's round like a month later at like a local restaurant or bar in Nashville. And a guy came up to me afterwards and was like, hey, I'm a producer for The Voice. And I would love to have you audition. And I realized that it was like the same guy who had just said no to me, which is so funny. But then I was like, in my head, I was like, how funny would it be if he said yes to me this time? So I did this.
Did he realize? Did he put it together, or
No,
were you like
he had
dressed
no
differently
idea.
enough that he didn't recognize you? I guess they see a bunch of people. So.
Yeah, and so he had no idea. And so I went to this private audition in Nashville, and then this guy was the judge at that one, and then said no to me again.
After inviting you to the
Yeah.
what?
And I will never forget it, because the funniest thing is I sing, like my big thing is I'm really bad at lyrics. Like I really have a bad memory when it comes to lyrics. And so I get really stressed out about it. And I remember I forgot the lyrics, so I just started making up the lyrics, but like they
fit the cadence of the song.
Yeah, I like ended up writing it kind of so it like still rhymed, and it still almost was like I got away with it. Nobody even realized that I like messed up verses of this song. Which is so funny, but I will just never remember. Like it was such a funny situation to be like.
There's no video footage of this out there, is there?
If there is, I will put my head in a hole and never come out, because I would be so embarrassed. You know what? I wouldn't. I would be like, good for her at that time. I was doing my best.
I think it's a flex. I think failed audition competition show clips are, and then you become successful afterward. I think it's a flex.
If that comes out in like 2 years when I'm like headlining an arena tour that's sold out, and then we put that on the screen as like the intro, done. I can do that. Right now, I feel like people would still be like, I don't see the difference. You sound the same.
Which one of your currents of the songs that you've released do you think would do the best on a competition show? Like if someone else was singing it?
Oof, that's hard. I think that like maybe like Roller Coaster is really hard to like. There's a lot of notes that like live, it's probably like one of the most challenging songs to sing, but it's like my favorite song to sing live because it's like wild. But I would say that, but I would also say All Right, because I feel like All Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. It does have, and it has like soft parts, it builds. And I could even picture, when they do you do the performances where there's like set pieces and they start out and there's like one spotlight and they stand up, the song goes and the lights, like you could see.
You just need to direct my music video for me.
Well, I do. Yeah, I actually, music video. I have a music video just came out Friday. So I do kind of think about. I do kind of think about those kind of things, like how they would be filmed and stuff.
I'm the same way. When I write a song, I like all I imagine is like the live show, and so I write it for the live show and how I want the live show to look while I'm performing it. And so like it is so funny that because I'm the same way. Like I like when I'm writing the verses, I'm like, okay, and then this is when like the lights start like doing this, so we need the drums to come in and do like it's like it all is like a theatrical thing to me. And then it's like the bridge comes in and I like start getting raised on like a pedestal.
Yeah, how could you have done like the Rihanna halftime show where she was up in the air on that platform by the rafters? Could
So
you
I don't know. I think I would just because, like I said, I'm so stubborn that if any one person looked at me and they were like, "You wouldn't do that," I would be like, "Yes, I
watch
would.
me?
Watch me." Because
Yeah.
that's just to the point where my management, when like even if I'm doing if there's like a random show or thing that I'm like, I don't think they'll be able to do that. They'll be like, "Yeah, you're right," and then I'm like, "Actually, I think I can."
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with. I have this weird thing where heights don't scare me in the sense of like when I look down, I could be on like a really tall building and look down, and that doesn't scare me at all. It's the second, ooh, thinking about it. It's the second that I look at something that's higher than me while I'm on something high. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's when I get really freaked out. So like being raised in the air and then like looking up and seeing the stadium would probably be the thing that did it for me. But looking down wouldn't make me nervous.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think looking down would be the worst part.
I don't know. I
You
don't
see
know why I
the
didn't know
waves. Yeah. Uh, what are you doing in terms of recording right now? Is there a longer EP? I know that
that.
you would kind of downplay the idea of recording a full length album in the past. How
Yeah.
do you feel about that now?
Honestly, I feel like my entire career has been kind of like proactive reactionary. Like it's like everything I do is kind of based off of how I feel at the time and what's going on in the moment. So it's instead of me just being like, oh, I'm going to spend the whole year around this album and I'm going to promote the album and then I'm going to release the album and then tour the album. I I feel like it's more fun for me to be able to make decisions based off of like my current state of mind and my current plans. And so I like to release singles as of right now just because I'm able to write a song and really love it and then be like, oh, I want to play this live. So like, let's release this. And then I can do that and like consistently make new videos for different songs and like new artwork. And it's not just like this one bundled thing that feels like it's like one child you're sending off to college instead of like 12.
Yeah. And
So
I know people have complained about that, if you put out a 12-track album, that the ninth track just doesn't get enough play because
yeah.
it's so deep into the album.
And honestly, it's not that I don't think that like, I really am so grateful for the people who do listen to my music and like the audience that I do have. But I also think that there is a certain level you have to be at to be able to keep people's attention for an album for 30, 45 minutes. That's a lot of time that like a person is going to take during their day to listen to your music. Like when a new Taylor Swift album comes out, like I plan a drive specifically for the length of the album because I respect her and I am like I want to experience it as she wrote it. And I want people to feel that way and I want people to be like, oh yeah, I'd listen to the full album instead of just being like, I'll listen to like 2 songs, And
I
so
I do like the experience though of a full album that you
mhm,
are into for only a couple songs, and then maybe a month, 2, 3 months later, you like let it keep playing. You're like, oh, this seventh song is good. They kind of like
mhm,
discover little gems. But I guess that's not really what you want as an artist, for your gems to be discovered 7 months
yeah,
after the album comes out.
4 years
So
later.
I
Yeah,
understand the thought process.
yeah, and I genuinely just enjoy it. Like I love the process of releasing music and be able to make like last minute decisions and different creative decisions, and I get to have fun visually so many different times instead of just like grouping it all into one idea. And I think that's really exciting for me. So I think I haven't fully decided if I'm going to release like a larger project or not this year. I think I genuinely will decide that probably right before.
I need you to decide it now, please,
Yeah,
so we can have
I'll
the
just make up a
exclusive.
date.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't, this couldn't be. I have to ask you at least a little bit about Dress, which
Yeah.
is still your biggest song to this point. Because you were talking about videos, that's what made me think about it, because I like that you kind of kept the other lead in the music video kind of silhouetted,
Yeah.
for a lot of it. What was you probably told the story a million times. If you could add a new twist, or if you want to do part of it in German or something, that's great. But what was behind writing Dress? What was the thing that pushed you forward? Because I'm sure there was an idea kind of floating around, but like, what made you actually do it?
So it's so funny because the main story is like the Harry Styles Vogue cover, which had just come out, and people were like up in arms about Harry Styles wearing a dress, which is hilarious to me. But I remember like having that conversation or talking about that. And then at the same exact time, I had just like was going through a breakup, and I was talking to Dane and Reed, and we were in the studio with an incredible producer and writer, Ruslan, and we were talking about how my type has changed so much over the years since I was 18 years old, and the different guys I had dated, and how my view and like my idea of like masculinity in a relationship had changed so much, and confidence, and how I used to see confidence as somebody who was like this outwardly like masculine, like let me prove to you that I can protect you and take care of you. And I was like, oh yay, that's like what masculinity and confidence is. And then I realized like over my next relationships that I was like, wait, I'm actually more attracted to people who are just confident in like being themselves and like dressing however they feel comfortable, and like their authentic life and whatever supports that. And that was attractive to me. And I like really just like my entire idea of confidence changed, and like what it looks like changed so much. And I think that we just had this idea of like, we should just write a song about this type of guy that I think I'm now attracted to, and the type of person that I'm now attracted to, which is somebody who just is unapologetically themselves. And even when people are judging them or are criticizing them or whatever, they just refuse to care about it, and they just let it roll over them, and they are just themselves. And I think that's the most attractive quality anybody can have. And so we literally started writing the song, and it was so funny because I think the main thing behind it was that I really didn't want it to feel like it was just like this is my view on this thing and you guys should listen to me. Like I wanted it to feel like I want people to listen to this song and be like, oh, this is a cool song. What is this about? And like not 100% understand the concept until the chorus when they're already like in it, and then be like, oh, huh. And not just be like this, like really shoving it in people's faces, because I was nervous that would make people just not even give it a second and give it any of their attention. And I think this way, when we tried to just make it a fun song that just felt good and just feels like a fun dance song that anybody can listen to and anybody can relate to in some way, that it like kind of opens the door for more people to just kind of try and understand and try and relate and realize that it's not that crazy of a concept. And yeah, so I think we did that. And that's what makes me so excited, is that anybody can listen to this song and it doesn't feel like this super opinionated like thing. It just feels like this feel good. Everybody love everybody. Like, let's have fun and celebrate.
Yeah, it wouldn't have all the streams it has if it wasn't catchy and fun to dance to, if it was just a message song,
right?
But yeah, and it's like we've forgotten how soon we forget the spandex and makeup that bands wore in the 80s. And
it's like, I know, and it's so crazy. It's like there's so many incredible artists like Queen and David Bowie and all these people who like pushed these gender norms so much so long ago, and people are still just we're surprised by it. It's so funny to me. But I'm just really grateful that people took this song though and like really like took it as their own. And the videos that people made to this song, it's like the most beautiful thing in the whole world. And the fact that it was even able to make people feel comfortable in that way or feel represented in that way is like the biggest gift like I could ever receive. And yeah, so that's the coolest thing in the whole world to me. I'm so grateful for that song.
Yeah. All right, Charlotte, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. The new single, All Right, is out now and on tour, lots of shows coming up, and excited for what's down the road for you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. This has been so fun.
Absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. That was Charlotte Sands. Her new single, All Right, is out now. That'll be it for me. Demi will be back next show. As always, go to popdust.com for the latest in pop culture and music news and to stream past episodes of It's Real with Jordan Demi. You can follow me on Instagram at Jordan Edwards Studio. You can follow Demi on Instagram at Demi_Ramos. Until next time, we'll see you later.